Evening, everyone. This is Tomas Talamonte, Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Muriel Bowser, and we want to thank you all so much for joining us for this ANC and community leader call to discuss the Stay DC program. We'll be joined by Director Lori Zeilinger from DHS, as well as the DHS team, as well as some of our partners from Deloitte who are helping with the program. And we are excited to answer your questions as we get to that portion of the program to help discuss the CADC program, what the process is, and other questions that you may have as ANCs or community leaders. Again, just a few of the rules of the road. We want to make sure that you press 0 if you have questions at any time to be entered into the question queue. Again, you can press 0 to be entered into the question queue. And also, we want to make sure that if you're watching online or through the Facebook or Twitter streams, that you ask your questions directly there. We will get to some of those questions as well. So again, if you are joining us by phone, at any point when you have questions related to the presentation, you can press 0. And if you are watching online, you can ask your questions directly on Facebook or Twitter. We do have the full deck of materials available on Channel 16 or on our live streams online for you to review. So to get the program started, we're going to go hear from Rachel Pierre, who is the administrator for FSA, the Family Services Administration for the Department of Human Services. Rachel, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Rachel Pierre. I am the administrator for the Family Services Administration at the Department of Human Services. As you know, the district launched a state platform earlier this month, and we are pleased this evening to bring you a short overview of the program as well as discuss the eligibility criteria and give you a demo of the program. We understand that many of your constituents have already applied and have had opportunities to go and visit the platform. We also understand that there have been some concerns with language access in the beginning, and we are also pleased to report that a lot of these concerns have already been addressed. The application can be now accessed in addition to English and French, Chinese, Amharic, Korean, Spanish, and Vietnamese. So we will use this evening to give you a high-level overview of the program and, again, review this, the demo, and we'll have opportunities for question and answers at the end of the program. Now, that being said, I will pass it on to my colleague, Raisa Singh, who will go through, again, just a high-level overview of the eligibility of the program, and then we will pass it to Jeffrey from Deloitte to give us a demo.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit more about STADC. If we can go to slide 4, that would be fantastic. So like Rachel said, we've launched STADC. It's the district's new rental assistance program to help households who are unable to pay rent or utilities due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We received approximately $350 million in federal aid. Some of you may have heard it discussed as ERA funds, and we're using that to fund the STADC program as well as other related efforts. I want to just note that this is one of the tools that the district is using to address housing instability and protect DC's affordable housing. We have previously rolled out other programs to begin address this even before we were aided by the federal government. So, for example, the COVID-19 Housing Assistance Program, or CHAP, was one of the programs that was already rolled out. ERAP is our legacy program, Emergency Rental Assistance Program. As you guys probably know, we also rolled out the district rolled out the Housing Stability Grants Program. And what's nice is STADC is going to replace CHAP and augment ERAP and create a little bit more of a streamlined approach to rental assistance. But really wanting to note that this is one of the tools that we're excited to use to ensure that folks have what they need to stay housed. Next slide, slide 6, please. a really high-level overview of what these funds are being used for and kind of what this program looks like. The STADC program is administered by the Department of Human Services, DHS, in collaboration with the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, DEMPED, the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, DMHHS, and the Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD, and the Department of Energy and Environment. So as you can see, it's a collaborative effort to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the residents in the district. STADC will provide support to residents in a couple really exciting ways. One is the traditional rental assistance that you think of, which is back rent, and it can cover unpaid rent through back through April 1st of last year. What I think is also exciting is it can cover upcoming rent. So we know that folks are struggling not just to pay back rent, but a lot of people have made significant sacrifices to stay up to date on rent and are struggling a bit thinking through how they're going to pay forward rent, and this program can assist with that. It can also cover utility expenses, and then again, one of the exciting pieces of this program is this idea of extended support, so it can cover up to 18 months per tenant. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about who we think that this program can benefit and some of the eligibility requirements. So it's really designed to assist those, again, who are looking to pay back rent or forward rent, and you qualify if you can meet one of a couple requirements. If someone in your household has qualified for unemployment, if you can attest in writing that you were either directly or indirectly impacted financially by COVID-19, if you can demonstrate a risk of experiencing homelessness or housing instability. What's nice is just having rental assistance is one of the indicators of, not nice, I guess, but what helps with eligibility is having owing back rent can be what kind of checks that box for experiencing housing instability. I do want to make a specific note that there is no restriction on those who are undocumented and those who are currently using a housing subsidy. And then again, as you can see in the box in blue, we think this is really important to note that it's both past due and forward rent as well. Next slide, please. We've partnered with Deloitte to do a few really great things. One is to stand up a call center that allows folks to call in to get some of their basic questions answered, but also help just walk through the application if needed. Call takers will be able to answer calls from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The phone number is 833-4-STAY-DC, and that is in conjunction with the new website that was launched, stay.dc.gov, where you can actually go to apply online. We wanted to be really intentional from the beginning to make sure that this was accessible to as many residents who would need it, and so that's one of the reasons we're so excited about being able to stand up that call center at the beginning of this program, and also why we want to point out that the call center, the application itself, both online and the paper application, and any web-based FAQs, resource documents are all translated into Spanish, Amharic, French, Mandarin, and Vietnamese in an effort to make this as accessible as possible. Stay.dc.gov is where I'd love for you guys to take a look after our demo. It's really going to be the place that can go give you all the information you need on diving a little bit deeper on who's eligible, how they can get help if they need it, if the application, if someone's getting stuck on the application. We have quite a few FAQ documents, resource documents, and eventually we'll have demos up there as well. Next slide, please. What we'd like to do is walk you really briefly through the application itself so you get a sense of what residents are looking at as they're applying. And then after the demo, we'll open it up to question and answer. Our demo today is going to be done by our partner from Deloitte, Jeffrey. I will let him, I think he's going to share his screen and walk us through it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Raisa. I am going to pull up my screen. Do want to confirm that everyone can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Great, thank you. And this is the landing page that Raisa just mentioned as well, the stay.dc.gov. So this is where applicants will be able to start their application, but also all of the resource materials that was just mentioned. I'll highlight that once the applicants log in, they will need to register for an account to be able to start their application process. This is the landing page for the application portal where they can go in and start a new application. For ease of today, I did start a draft application, so I'm going to walk through the key question sets that are part of the application, but also some tips and tricks that we've identified that are helpful for applicants as they complete the application as well. As part of the application process, as I mentioned, there's a number of different question sets. So I'll first walk through the top of what we have. The first set of questions that we have is first we want to identify that applicants are able to confirm eligibility. We certainly don't want tenants being able to finish a complete application, spending time and energy, only to subsequently identify that they may not be eligible. So we have a lot of our key criteria and eligibility on the first screen to be able to capture not only the address information, but other eligibility requirements. The second component of questions and as part of our application is going to be requesting information from the applicant. The third component is going to be the actual rental assistance that they are seeking. So that's not only including any rent that they will need to help support, but also based on some of the additional programs that DC currently has, such as CHAP or the existing Emergency Rental Assistance Program or others, are also taken into account as part of the application process. The fourth component is utilities. So as part of Stay DC, this is not only for rental assistance, but it is also open and eligible for utility payments, both past due utilities, but also prospectively when we look at the utilities as well. And then 5 and 6, when we look at the last couple of pages, that goes through and reiterates some of the payment information. This is a program that is intended to pay landlords directly or housing providers directly after approval of an application. So there's some additional clarification and communication in that regard. And then the last page for certification simply goes through that the applicant is supplying information completely, accurately, and on their own behalf, and that they are eligible for the program. So looking at the pre-eligibility screen, we do request and want to confirm that we are looking at a residential unit within the District of Columbia. We do have a number of validation procedures included as part of this. So to help with data cleanliness, we do ask applicants to validate their address according to USPS standard formats. Some of the additional information that also gets to the eligibility criteria includes the number of bedrooms that the rental unit has, including whether the housing provider is an immediate family member. We want to be able to confirm that the applicant does have a valid lease or sublease or other rental agreement. In addition, there are income eligibility requirements. So on this first screen, we also capture up front what the total household income is for 2020. And that does provide the applicant immediate confirmation as part of the eligibility requirements from the area median income per the U.S. Treasury guidance. And then when we get into the remainder of the questions here, this also supports some of the additional eligibility criteria as part of the program. Once the applicant is continuing and they get confirmation, if there are specific questions that they are not eligible, they will receive an error message indicating as such, so that they're at least informed at that first screen. But continuing with the application, there is an additional table where we start filling in and collecting additional information. So we're looking at the name of the applicant, whether they're the head of household, adding in a spouse, significant other, or civil partner, in addition to other children or other household members. There's other information that's included, further breakout of the 2020 income, in addition to, based on the guidance that we've received from the federal level, being able to identify the immediate prior month income or the prior month income, the last month income or the prior month income to help support the overall income eligibility. Additional information is captured as it relates to the address, cell phone, other information such as that. And then we also do ask questions around if there is assistance that's received through other district programs. I will note that as part of the application, you'll see that there's a number of locations where documentation is required. One of the helpful tips, I'll just pause right now, one of the helpful tips as part of with the applicant is letting them know that it is very, very helpful to review the frequently asked questions, to review the user guides that are available on the State DC website so that they understand the application process before they start. And I think it's helpful for applicants to be able to gather the required documentation as it relates to the income-related data, their lease documentation, and other supporting information that's required as part of the application, so that as they go through this process, they can easily upload that information at that time. That will help prevent them from having to come back and forth into a draft application in order to submit it on a timely fashion on their behalf. The third tab goes into the rental assistance information, so you'll see the questions as it relates to the particular housing provider that we're asking from the applicant, and we also request some additional questions to help as part of the application review process if they do have a past due notice, if they're at risk for an eviction, etc. The last item on this particular table gets into the specific months in which they are requesting rental assistance. As Rachel mentioned, the assistance that they can request can go back 12 months and up to 3 months into the future for when they submit their application. The next item I'll note, as I mentioned earlier, and we'll reiterate that as part of the program, it does allow for utilities. So this is where applicants can upload some of their utility documents, either prior bills that they are requesting assistance, but also looking at the specific utility company. So in this example, I put in Pepco as an example. This fifth screen here, more informational purposes, as I mentioned previously, that the overall intent of the program is to directly pay landlords. In the event that landlords are either unwilling to participate, which there may be circumstances such as that, or if there are unresponsive housing providers as part of the application process, payments may be made directly to the tenant applicant as well. And then the final page is getting into the certification. There's a number of statements that simply the applicant needs to agree that they are completing the information completely, accurately, and as from their own understanding, eligible for the program, really to help prevent any potential fraud or any error in the application process. So a number of statements that we ask applicants to attest to and certify to as part of the application process. Hopefully that provides a good overview for all of you to understand the application process and just the look and feel of the application itself, the type of information that needs to be included and uploaded to support the application. And I'll pause there to see if there's any specific questions as it relates to the application process or the application portal. Otherwise, certainly I'll hand it back to you, Raisa, in terms of broader program questions that may also we may field.
Thank you so much for that great and thorough presentation. And I know we have some questions that have come on online and through various means. And I want to remind everybody, if you're joining us by phone, you can press 0 now to be entered into the question queue. So we're going to have some questions coming in through the phone, likely, as well as I want to remind everyone, if you're on Twitter or Facebook, watching those streams, you can ask your questions directly there. I believe Director Zellinger was able to join us. Is she on? I don't know if she wanted to provide any quick comments before we go into Q&A. If not, we will just go directly into Q&A. If I know we're having some sound issues earlier.
Yeah, Tom, we would like to afford as much time as possible for Q&A, please.
Beautiful. We will jump right into Q&A. So the first question I got is online was, what is the time frame for people that have submitted applications to hear back on a decision related to the program, if they were awarded and that process? We've gotten that question a few times, and just wanting to know the timeline of that process.
Great question. I'm going to look to Jeff to help give some context for what that approval process looks like and about how long we're thinking that's going to take, since that's all being processed by Deloitte.
Great. Yes, thank you, Raisa. I'll note that as part of the application process, and as you can see, there's a number of documents that are required as part of the application process. So we do have a fairly large team going through the applications and reviewing them for a number of different key items, including a valid lease agreement, the proof of income or income qualification as part of that process. Generally, what we've seen as part of programs such as this, generally taking up to 3 to 4 weeks potentially for an applicant to hear back on the overall award qualification and receipt of the funding award as well.
Thanks, Jeff. And I'll add a little bit more context to say some of that's dependent on, like Jeff said, how complete the application is, how much assistance the person needs in completing that application. We're doing a few things on our end to try to both ensure that the information we have is correct to avoid as much back and forth as possible. And the reason he noted what we've seen in programs is because this is, like 2 weeks old at this point. And so we're using data from cities that Deloitte has stood this up in already.
Great, thank you. The next question we have is related to, we're getting a few questions just on language access for the application process and portal. Is it available in multiple languages? What is that? If you need assistance in different languages, what that process looks like?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. So we wanted to make this as accessible as possible. So yes to all of that. You can call into the call center, and there are Spanish-speaking callers available, and then other languages, and I don't have the list in front of me anymore, but Amharic, French, Mandarin, I think Vietnamese was the last one. We can connect with a translation service, and we essentially do a three-way call to make sure that that client and the call taker are understanding each other and that the caller gets what they need. Additionally, all of our documents that are online, so the FAQ, our resource documents, the paper application that's also online, are also translated into all of those languages.
Great, and I think this is a similar question, but for those that maybe don't have access to a computer or have some tech issues, wondering, is the call center the place to go, and will they be able to call back for updates on their application and the process related to that?
That's a great question. The call center is always the first place to go, and then essentially if they're not able to help, we have a few places they can escalate to make sure that the resident gets what they need. So, for example, if the resident needs somebody to walk through the application with them and need a little bit more time than the call center can take in that moment, what we'll do is connect them with the CBO who can help walk them through that process or through the application process and help with follow-up. Yes, they can call the call center back if they have questions on their application, if they're just not quite sure what's happening with it. It's one of the reasons we were so excited and insistent, really, on standing up that call center in addition to the online application.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to the phone for our next question. Marita Crawford-Riddick, your line is unmuted.
Yes, thank you. I apologize for my first question, so I'm going to delete that about the slides. I didn't know that there was the slides were available already online. But my other question is, approximately how many people have already applied, and what is your total anticipation for those who will apply?
Great question. I will pass it to Jeff to give us the most updated numbers. And then if Rachel or David could help give us a bit of an estimate on total needs, that would be great. But we'll toss it to Jeff first for our current numbers.
Great, thank you. No, very, very good question. So we have about 4,000 applications that we have seen that are submitted. I will note that as part of those 4,000 tenant-based applications that we have submitted, part of the application process includes both reach out to the landlord or the housing provider as well. So all of those applications have two components to it. What I walked through as an example is specifically the tenant portion. In addition to that application process, there's also a housing provider portion of that. So it does ask for and it does require both of those portions to be completed, with the exception being if those housing providers are not willing or decline to participate in the program. So most of those applications are still in the pending period where we are waiting for housing provider information. So that is what we have seen, or the type of volume that we have seen over the last several weeks.
Great. Thank you so much. We're going to go next to Commissioner Claudette David on the line. Commissioner, your line is unmuted.
Hi. Thank you for allowing me to ask a question. I wanted to know, and thank you for providing information, I wanted to know how is payment dispersed, and also I do have a building management in my S&D that is working with tenants. So in this process, should tenants be working with their building management, because it takes 3 to 4 weeks, and if they're already behind, to try and make sure that they stay in their homes?
Yeah, thank you.
Strategy.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I feel like you teed it up really well. Yes, everything you said, they should be working together for that application. We've suggested that landlords can be helpful by doing things like, if there's a computer lab on site, allowing residents to apply there. Even something as simple as making sure that tenants have the housing provider's most recent or most up-to-date email address and phone number is going to speed the application process along. What's nice about this program is it's limited by time, not by money. So if you got to the end and the tenant needed additional resources, as long as they haven't maxed out at that 18 months, they can actually go back in and apply for additional resources if that's needed. So wanting to note that. But yes, we really do suggest that landlords do exactly what you laid out, is communicating with their tenants about this program, laying out the ways that they could be helpful, just making sure that they have the right information about each other. And then if there's ways to actually on-site help them fill out the application, that would be ideal as well. Your other question was about how payments are made. They are made directly with landlords. And so the application process is that, and I know Jeff kind of got into this a little bit, but it's actually two application processes that merge in the middle. So the tenants have an application and the landlords have an application, and they're inputting their the information that's obviously makes sense for their applications. They meet in the middle, and that's when the Deloitte team is verifying all the information, connecting the two applications, and then moving it forward to payment. Hopefully that answers your question, but let me know if there's other information I can provide.
Great, I think that did. We have one more online question, and again, just want to remind everybody, our commissioners on the phone, you can press 0 if you have a question. It looks like we've gotten a lot of them answered, and just a few more. One is just if you all could cover again the eligibility, and wondering if you receive other assistance such as ERAP or other means, do those make you ineligible? So I think just kind of going through the eligibility.
Yeah, sure. I will point everyone to the state.dc.gov website because all of our documents summarize the eligibility significantly better than I can verbally. But what I will say to the question around whether or not participating in other programs make you ineligible, we aren't going to be able to pay for the same period of time, but if, for instance, you applied for ERAP and it covered a certain amount of your rent and you still owe some, STADC can cover the rest of that. And so STADC can cover anything that a program that you have participated in isn't already covering, up to, again, the 18-month cap that we have. If there's specific questions about eligibility, I'm happy to answer. Not sure. I feel like the documents online are going to be so much more helpful than me kind of running through the whole thing again, but let me know if there's specific questions.
No, that's helpful. Again, just remind everyone to go online to stay.dc.gov. We do, and correct me if I'm wrong, Team DHS, but we do, we will make sure that our MOCers and we also have other community outreach teams that are going to be getting information out on the program that will have sort of those one-pagers on what is needed, what is the eligibility that we can get to you commissioners to help spread the word on. I don't know if there's other resources that you want to point Team DHS commissioners to as they can be helpful for spreading the word and getting more information out to residents that maybe haven't heard about the program or some of those landlords that we can help amplify more information on. I don't know if there's other resources you want to point them to help with that.
Yeah, so our partners at DHCD and ZEMP had actually put together a toolkit that we will make sure that you guys get that has all of the things you just laid out in an organized way. I did want to point specifically about the eligibility, a helpful spot on the website. Once you click on I am a tenant, there's a section on the bottom that says, am I eligible? And if you click on that, what it's going to do is give you the list of all the eligibility requirements, and you can kind of check through those in your head. So it's the most direct way. And then, again, all the resources on the documents, like on the website, like the FAQ, and some of the other resource documents will help answer some additional questions for residents as well.
Great. And we have one last question from Commissioner Patel coming from us online. The Commissioner would just like to know what is DHS and the other partners, agency partners, doing to spread the word to more of our vulnerable residents? And what does the engagement with community groups look like related to the State DC program and amplifying it?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We recognize we have some really top-notch community partners, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing the partners in our communities that our residents already trust. And so we're working really closely with our community-based organizations, grassroots organizations who already have the relationships in the communities and know of the clients and the residents who need this resource. And so we'll be rolling out, we have and will continue to roll out engagements like these, but also rolling out more on-the-ground efforts to get people, flyers and all of the information they need to spread the word.
Great. Well, again, we'll make sure to the MOCers who are also sharing information with the commissioners, we'll make sure that they get you all the deck if you do not have it from today, as well as the other materials to share. We also are recording this call, so we'll make sure to get this video out to commissioners that maybe were not able to make the call today. Before we go, I just want to say, Director Zeilinger, I don't know if you want to provide any closing remarks to our commissioners, and then we'll close it out from there.
Thank you so much, Tomas. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We were very happy to be able to provide this demo to you. I hope you have found it helpful. Thank you also for your partnership in helping residents connect to this very important resource. We know that you hear from property owners and tenants alike, and we are just very grateful that the resources that are so desperately needed to make sure that we don't have a surge in homelessness due to the economic impact of COVID do what it is they're intended. So thank you again for your partnership, and I just really want to acknowledge the tremendous, very fast and furious work of the entire team you heard from today, and many people who work with them behind the scenes to make sure that this federal money was out the door and accessible to our residents in lightning speed, and with all of the regulatory controls that are required of government. So I just really want to acknowledge the work to get us to this place, and we know there's much more work ahead, and we're well equipped and prepared to serve our residents. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you, Director, and thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.